Hello there, live boxing is back on Sky Sports. Finally, we have a cracking lineup of fights to get our teeth stuck into, and that is exactly what we plan to do. I'm delighted to say I'm joined by Johnny Nelson and Matthew Macklin to discuss matchups from the second week of Fight Camp. Our focus today is the gentleman Chris Billam-Smith's Commonwealth title defence against Nathan Thorley. Matt, who do you see winning this one and why?
I fancy Billam-Smith in quite a big way. I don't know enough about Nathan Thorley. I've looked at his record. I haven't seen him box too much, but he's undefeated, so he'll have the confidence of an undefeated fighter. But like I say, I think he's fought only one of those opponents, had a winning record. So he's been very sort of careful, modest opposition. He's been brought along quite slowly, really. He hasn't, whoever's guiding him, matching his fights, they haven't taken any risk with him. These are all fights that he's supposed to win and win comfortably. Where Billam-Smith, he lost a close one, split decision loss. I think it was to Richard Riakporhe. He beat Craig Glover as well. He's been in some distance fights. He hits hard. He's in a really good setup there with Shane McGuigan. They seem to get on very well. I've met him and I've spoke with him and I've talked in depth with him. And he's a guy that's really believes in his ability and has got a lot of ambition left in the sport. I know he felt hard done by against Riakporhe. Riakporhe, we know, is a massive puncher. He took some big shots that night, so he's definitely a very durable guy. Hits quite hard as well. I think he's got 9 knockouts out of his 10 wins. So yeah, I think Billam-Smith for me is a big favourite in this. Even though Thorley is an undefeated fighter, I fancy Billam-Smith in a big way here.
Johnny, do you agree with what Matt just said there? I mean, you've always got that sort of beware of the underdog in Nathan Thorley.
I agree totally with Matt. I checked out Nathan Thorley on YouTube. Was looking at his fights, and he's rangy. He's correct. I just think there's something missing, and I don't know what it is. And I'm trying to think. There's just a little bit of spice missing out of the Thorley's style, how he boxes. Whereas Billam-Smith, he's got that all round strength, that aggression. I think, and that's how I can see Smith chasing down Thorley to put him under pressure and Thorley trying to box his way through it. The thing is, can he keep him off for long enough? I think Billam-Smith is strong enough, aggressive enough, and rounded enough to actually break him through. And if it's on points, it'll be a tight points win. But I don't think it's going to go the distance because I think Thorley's going to try and box his way through this, and Smith will catch up to him.
Matt, obviously, CBS, Chris Billam-Smith, he's starting to get bigger billing on live Sky shows under the bright lights. Do you remember your first televised fight and the difference that it made to you in the build-up and knowing that you were going to be centre stage? In what way will that affect Nathan Thorley? Is it a case of you can't fear what you don't know, or will it be a case of don't freeze?
Yeah, I think it'll be a case of don't freeze. I mean, he'll be excited by it. He'll see it as an opportunity to kind of step up to the plate and give his career a massive boost. If he wins live on Sky Sports on this platform, then it opens up a lot of doors for him. But he'll also be nervous. It'll be unknown territory. He'll realise he's stepping up to a bigger stage. He's out of his comfort zone. So it'll be a little bit of both. Like I say, look, it's without a doubt it's an opportunity. But with that, there'll come the nerves and the fear and the anxiety, and he'll feel out of his comfort zone for sure. And Billam-Smith is someone that he has been there. He has boxed on some big shows on Sky. Like I say, that close fight he had with Riakporhe. And I know that he feels that he should have got that decision, and he's looking to really kind of, seize this opportunity with both hands. Billam-Smith, he wants to really win this fight, make a statement, and look to move on to bigger and better things after this. So he's very ambitious, Billam-Smith. He's got some big plans ahead for himself.
Johnny, obviously Billam-Smith with a breakout win, like a launch pad against Craig Glover, a fight going into that many people saw as a 50-50. I know Craig obviously looked after by Tony Bellew, and Tony was telling anybody that would listen, don't back against Glover. But what a breakout win for Chris Billam-Smith.
Yeah. Smith ended up beating him up, and that was it. And Smith is has shown he's the type of fighter that is not intimidated by what's on paper in front of him, or actually who's in the opposite ring. Because even when he boxed Rietpo, even to this day now, he feels as though, you know, he should have got that decision. And I rate Rietpo, who's not a finished article. So for Billam-Smith, again, a fighter that's not the finished article, seems mentally strong, mentally focused, confident as the fights go on. And I'm quite sure against Glover, against Rietpo, his confidence will have grown, even though the decision against Rietpo didn't go the way he wanted it to. So again, we're seeing a guy that's more rounded as a professional, even though Thorley has had the opponents and had the wins. I think it's a bit. If he's watching this, I'm sorry. I think his record is artificial. Because you look at the fight he's boxing, he's been in there. There might be some method behind the madness in putting him with fighters that can mess him about, that have got all shapes and sizes, and just to give him that experience to work him through, and to give him that confidence to start knocking him over. But eventually, you're going to come across somebody like Smith that has been groomed for anything and everything. So now we're going to find out if that philosophy of getting him in with fighters that have had hundreds of fights and not many wins has worked for him. I don't think it has. I think Smith is the kind of fighter where he's on the right path, and don't be surprised. I can see him actually getting higher than this and boxing for a European title, Smith, and see where he mixes it in there.
Matt, if you flip it on its head and your team Thorley, how do you beat someone like Chris Billam-Smith?
I think he has to try and outbox him. I don't think he's not gonna stop him. I don't think he's gonna take it to him. I think he's gonna try and fiddle his way through the fight and frustrate him, tie him up, box him, just get through it and try and nick the rounds. I don't think he's he's 14-0. He's undefeated, but like you said, they're handpicked opponents. They're journeyman fighters. Most of them have. I think only one of them have got a winning record. So these are very much your journeyman type of fights. Billam-Smith's 10-1, but it's a completely different record. These are fights that have meant something. Like you say, the Rietpo's looked really good. He carries explosive power, cracks really hard. I know Billam-Smith thought he won that fight, and I know we've said this already, but that was a real fight. He was in situations in that fight. He lost rounds. He was behind. He come back. So Thorley hasn't really been through these sort of situations, these scenarios within a fight. So in terms of experience, even though he's had more fights, he's nowhere near as experienced as Billam-Smith. And I think, Billam-Smith hits quite hard as well. And I just think Thorley could be out of his depth a little bit here. He hasn't stepped up in class. He's just stayed at the one level, more or less, boxing these opponents, journeyman type guys. And I don't feel that he's learned the necessary lessons that he will need to have in his armory to go on and beat someone like Billam-Smith.
Okay, let's move it on somewhere else on the undercard. Anthony Fowler will take on Adam Harper. Johnny, Anthony Fowler, very big, very strong at that weight. And again, very similar to the first fight, Adam Harper comes in as a little bit from the darkness, as a bit of an unknown.
Anthony Fowler, I've always said from when he turned professional, he's an emotional creature. And when he was with Dave Caldwell, the early part of his career, I thought it's hard to tame him because there's some rough edges there that instinctively come out when he's up against it, when it's in his face. And so again, I think Fowler will be enough for most domestic position. But his biggest problem is him. Once he calms himself down and channels that aggression, that aggressive style, it could be really, really effective for him. But I think come the 7th, I think as far as I'm concerned, that's a done deal. I think he's going to be too strong, too smart, too confident, and I'd certainly side towards Fowler, because Fowler is a fight that's going there as favourite.
Matt, do you agree with that? Adam Harper, again, looking at his record, isn't a huge amount to go off, but the big name that stands out is unfortunately the one defeat, Michael Zarafa, who we know gave Kell Brook a relatively tough time. Do you agree with what Johnny was saying there, that perhaps too big, too strong, and a bit too much quality with Anthony Fowler?
Yeah, I do. Absolutely. I think he's, you look at if you also cater or factor in his amateur pedigree, amateur experience, he's way more experienced, way more proven. has fought by far the better opposition, amateur and professional. And Fowler's a strong super welterweight, hits hard. I know he lost that one to Fitzgerald. Fitzgerald can dig, and he caught him late on. So I think Fowler's a big favourite here. It's he needs this win. He's very ambitious. He's very hungry. Fowler. He wants to do well in this sport. He's no spring chicken. So I think he feels like he's a man in a hurry. It's a great division domestically, the super welterweight division. We mentioned Cheeseman, Kieran Conway, Sam Eggington. He's up at super welterweight now as well, and he's on a bit of a run. So, that's a great fight, him and Cheeseman. Maybe Fowler could get the winner of that. Who knows? But I think he's, he should win this fight. He should win and look good doing it. And then there should be a lot of big fights out there for Anthony Fowler domestically.
Johnny, just picking up on what Matt said there, one thing with Anthony, he admitted it in his own words on the podcast, believed his own hype, got sucked into looking at bigger fights, looked past Scott Fitzgerald and, came a cropper. You would think that you'd learn a hard lesson there and lightning wouldn't strike twice, wouldn't you?
You'd think that. I think it could happen again. He's 29 years old, and you'd think you'd have learned those lessons by now, coming through the ranks, through the amateurs, the career that he's got so far as a professional. He wears his heart on his sleeve. He's a confident individual, and that braggadociousness, if that's a word, is part of him, part of his fight, part of that makes him the fighter he is. So he needs that. So domestically, I'm quite sure if he comes up against some characters, they will draw that out in him. But that aggressive, I can remember when he was with Dave, and I said, how are you managing to settle him down? He said, that is the only problem. He said, he's a very talented fighter, but I've just got to keep the reins on him because his emotions takes over his skill. And I think that will be his Achilles heel, wherever he is in his career. So as long as his career is, as long as he's fighting, he'll always be exciting because he'll always have that nerve end that's raw, where he wants to get involved in a tear up at the slightest poke. And so I think he's great entertainment. I think domestically he'll give us some great entertainment. But when you step up there and we go to European level, that's where he's going to depend on that skill that he actually has, and he's going to depend on that maturity and that discipline and experience that he's picked up.
There's the title for the video. Will Anthony Fowler's braggadociousness be his downfall? Nice one, Johnny. Matt, you said before, I jest, obviously. Matt, you said before quite openly that Anthony Fowler is a meticulous trainer, very, very dedicated trainer, boils that massive frame down to make the weight, but you feel that perhaps he takes too much out and could campaign up at middleweight.
Yeah, I do. I've said this for a while. He boxed at 75 kilos as an amateur. So that's I think 11, 12. To come down to 11 stone, then I know we have the day before weigh-in, and you can refuel and rehydrate, etc. But it's still quite a big jump down, and he's not the quickest. He doesn't have the best hand speed. So I think when he's down at these guys at super welterweight, they're a bit quicker than him. They move quicker. The hand speed's better. I just think at middleweight he would be stronger. He'd have more energy. His speed would be better. He wouldn't be outspeeded as much. I think that would be his optimum fighting weight. I'm not saying that he can't make super welterweight, but just sometimes it's not always the weight that you can make that you perform best at. And I think Fowler would be better at middleweight. He's certainly big enough and certainly strong enough. And he'd be that bit quicker at middleweight. He's very experienced amateur, had a lot of hard fights. I think there's already miles on the clock with Anthony Fowler. He trains hard. Everything's 100 miles an hour. I'd imagine every single sparring session he has, it's a ding dong. You can see that in him. I'd say when he goes on the bag, he goes full blast. When he's shadow boxing, he doesn't do anything. He doesn't take his time. He's quite 100 miles an hour. So I do believe he would be better as a middleweight. And what Johnny's saying there about sort of harnessing that aggression, that's great if you can do that. But I don't know, can Fowler do that? He's 29 years old now. He's got to where he's got by being the way he is. And I'm not sure. I think he's a little bit late in the game now. It's hard to teach an old dog new tricks. Now, I know he's changed trainers with Shane McGuigan, and maybe that bit of a fresh perspective and the fact that he's down there in like a camp mentality in London will benefit him. Maybe he likes that, but I think he kind of is what he is a little bit now. I don't know how much better he can get. I just think for me, the biggest change I would do if I was training Fowler, I would certainly look to make him move up to middleweight.
Brilliant. Well, thank you both again. Fowler probably the favourite, but if we've learned anything in recent months and recent years, it's beware of the underdog, and we certainly shouldn't sleep on Adam Harper. Guys, thank you very much for joining me today. Keep your eyes peeled for the next episode, and don't forget to tune in to Sky Sports on Friday night for all of the action.